Greetings, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I am very impressed to know that for 6 years, you have been running conferences on management research. And I've been personally to Sri Lanka twice. Each visit was very stimulating and enjoyable. And I appreciate very much being invited to speak to you about modern marketing. Now, I had prepared a set of slides which would help you see more clearly the way marketing has been moving. However, I thought that I had sent the slides to my sponsors, and if so, if I'm correct, please show the slides. If you do not have the slides, I have them, but I noticed that I'm not speaking on Zoom, but some other format, and therefore I can't see how I can turn my slides on to bring attention to them. So I'm in a position as a lecturer without his material. In fact, I had tuned in 15 minutes earlier in order to load my slides, but apparently there's been a miscommunication. So I will just talk more informally. I will say this, that I'm speaking to you right now from Florida. And we, like you and the rest of the world, finds that we are living in two big crises. The immediate crisis is the COVID, and we're learning that it's going to continue for a while and affect too many more lives, unfortunately. And even if we got over COVID, we probably don't get back to a new normal because of climate change. And climate change is going to be the next big C. COVID first, second is climate change. And we, I hope, start practicing our business both to make profit and also to practice sustainability. If we fail to practice sustainability as companies, we may have profit, but it won't last very long because the earth itself will get warmer and warmer. People will flee out of the equator area, pressing very hard to get into Europe and to get into places that are cool. And life will become very much damaged for everyone. So sustainability is central. Let me see if I can show my screen. I'm getting a signal that says we can show your screen, and here's the story.
Sir, we can see your screen now.
All right, can you see it now?
Yes, sir. All you need to do is start with the presentation mode.
Wonderful. Okay. I am
Thank you
very
so much.
relieved. I'm so relieved. And notice this is just the cover, and now you can see a picture of me and also 3 recent books to carry out your own interest in marketing. I know many professors and audience members may be more interested in finance, may be more interested in strategy, in personnel, but I'm going to focus on marketing. You'll notice that if you want a very quick update on what's happening in marketing, you go to Marketing 5.0, which I will explain in a minute. Another book that recently we published is called H2H Marketing, and that is a shorthand for the idea of human-to-human marketing, because we sometimes think marketing is done by a machine. It's done by just 2 people who don't know each other. They're just entering a transaction. In those cases, there's no real humanity. And so we wanted to write a book also to show that the most effective companies are being conducted by human beings who have a good interest in other human beings. And we've got to make more business and more marketing H2H. And the last book you see is my 16th edition of the book Marketing Management that just came out. And maybe it's not available in many places yet, but it is the latest edition on how to run your marketing strategy and your tactics. But let me move on. Very briefly, marketing has changed its focus over time. Originally, our marketing was really just about making a product like a car or like Coca-Cola and selling it. So your job was simply to make and sell. And that understand the customers better. After all, customers are different in many ways from each other, and they change their mind over time. And if we lose sight of why the customers were buying our product, if we fail to notice that they're moving to buy competitors' products, we're going to hurt our company. So most companies now understand the primary importance of being customer oriented. And then branding became a very big idea that every company should seek to make a promise to customers about its performance, what you can expect from us. What does our brand really mean? So the brand carries the burden of being a promise of what customers will get by dealing with you. And then still later, we had a revolution in our normal marketing framework because we went from an analog world to a digital world. And we had to start asking, when we communicate to others, can we do it digitally as well as face-to-face? And what kinds of changes do we have to make in marketing to harness the power of digital processing? And finally, today, many more companies are also recognizing the importance of societal values, like the value of sustainability and the question of the common good. Our companies really doing a good job to lift up and enhance the lives and the health of people around the world. So you see, it's an evolution. And you can tell me if you run a company where your company is in this progression of ideas. Moving on, I want to remind the audience of the major tenets of modern marketing. And I've already mentioned that one tenet is buyer-centered, customer-centered, not product-centered. That's one thing we accept. I want to emphasize the 4 A's because when you create a product, whether it's going to be successful or not depends on 4 A's. Can you make the people aware of your product? Can you create awareness? Can you make the product accessible where they can find it and get it? Have you made the product acceptable to the buyer, that they can believe in it? And have you made the product affordable, that they will have enough money to buy it? Now, once you establish that you're strong on the 4 A's, then you use the 4 P's, which are the 4 tools of marketing, to reach those who've already been touched by the 4 A's. And the 4 P's are: the product is good, the price is right, the place is right, and the promotion is strong. And all of this is done in a setting of the 4 C's. The 4 C's being, after all, you're a company, you're going to have customers, you're going to reach the customers with the help of your collaborators, namely partners, other kinds of partners like your suppliers and your distributors, and you're going to face competitors. So that is the structure of the market. And you're going to do a good job of STP. Namely, you're going to realize the market is very complicated. It consists of different parts, and you're going to segment the market, and you're going to not go after the whole market. After all, you're not Coca-Cola trying to sell Coca-Cola to everyone who drinks. You're going to try to target a reasonable group that would be interested in your offering. So you go from a segment that you target, and then you give a message to that targeted segment, showing what your position is, why they are different than the competitors, why your offer is different and better. That's called positioning. So your whole marketing process can be summarized in the following steps. Every process is a set of steps. And you know, the first step anyways, especially if you're creating a new product, is you've got to start with marketing research. You've got to understand whether this is a big enough segment to even go after. And you have to understand how the buyers behave in that segment. So let's say you do marketing research and you decide, therefore, on the segment targeting and positioning. You now can go after the target market, the TM, and to the target market, you offer a value proposition, a VP, and then you incorporate this in a marketing plan. So the marketing plan really spells out the target market and the value proposition. And then you implement the plan. Your various people in your company go and they make contacts and they implement the plan. And then you collect numbers on how well you're doing, which we call the control numbers. You have to control the output. Now, if your product is not doing well, here's what I suggest. Work backwards. Look at the numbers saying that your product isn't doing well and ask, maybe was it poor implementation? If not, if the implementation was good, but maybe the plan was poor, the marketing plan. If the marketing plan was pretty good, but maybe the value proposition did not convince the customers to buy the product. It was not a good, strong value proposition, a promise of value. But if it was a good promise of value, maybe you chose the wrong target market. That wasn't the target market you should have gone after. Maybe you did a very poor job of STP. Maybe fundamentally you did poor marketing research. You understand that the process going forward is used to understand the results by going backwards. Let me move on. Another view of the evolution of marketing is 5 different stages. The first is called a functional marketing. We make something, we sell it, we put a price on it, period. No emotions. Buy it. If you're a rational person, you would buy our product. But we realized afterwards that many buying decisions, both in the consumer area and even in the business area, are somewhat emotional. My estimate might be this, that of all the consumer decisions, about 70% of them are primarily emotional decisions, not rational decisions. Someone just passes a package of, it could be a can of soup, and it looks good, and they decide to buy it. They felt good emotionally. It wasn't a rational thing. Maybe they will open the can and it won't satisfy them, but they made an emotional. So I would say emotional decisions are pretty prominent in consumer marketing. And I would say that at least 40% of the decisions in business-to-business marketing are emotional as well. We talked about a new stage called Marketing 3.0, which is to dedicate marketing to the well-being of the customer. You're actually not only offering real value, but it's real value that turns into making their lives better. Well, we then wrote a book called 4.0 Marketing to make the point that there's a digital revolution and the framework of marketing has to be modernized digitally. And we have a whole book on that. And then we wrote about several new technologies that the digital revolution made possible. Among them would be what we call artificial intelligence and algorithms and 3D printing and so many others. Now I can just touch on some of those others shortly. What I want to emphasize now is several new ways in marketing. And perhaps the one that is the most important one is the customer journey marketing. When someone comes into your restaurant for the first time, it makes sense to try to find out how they got to your restaurant. Was it a recommendation of a friend of theirs to come to your restaurant? Did they see an ad that you placed in a newspaper? Did they look in the window and it was very attractive? The restaurant looked very inviting. In other words, how do people end up in your place of business? Because probably different people who came to your restaurant came for different journeys. They went through different journeys. And by understanding the mix of journeys that bring people to your restaurant or to your car dealership or whatever, you can get insight into their behavior. And every journey consists of touch points. Just seeing an ad is a touch point. Just talking to a salesman is a touch point. And a successful journey will consist of very successful touch points. Namely, a company has created a moment of truth, a positive moment of truth at every touch point. In other words, the ad looked very good. The smile on the part of the waitress was a positive thing. So you got to make sure that you facilitate the customer journey by being at the touch points that the customer goes through and has a positive experience. All right, another thing happening in the newer marketing, we create a thing called personas. Because when we send our messages, we have to know who are we selling to. Is our customer a 35-year-old woman of middle income? Is that the person who should get this message about our cornflakes or cereal? Or are we really writing to kids about the cereal? In other words, the very language you use in communicating has to be shaped for the person who you visualize is receiving the message. So marketers get very much experienced in creating artificial personas, call them maybe by archetypes. And then they show these to the copywriters, who then can make messages as if they're really talking to a live person. Another development today is content marketing. In other words, we normally, most of our messages are hard sell messages. Buy from us, we have the best product. It will satisfy you the most. Those are selling messages. But why not use messages of interest to the customers you have? What if many of your customers are very interested in sports? Maybe in fact your customers are tennis players or golfers. you know, there's so much interesting things happening in the world of tennis or the world of golf that just sending friendly newsletters about what's happening in tennis is going to be appreciated by your customers. It warms up the relationship, and that's what we call content marketing. Now, another thing we've realized recently is that many people are on the internet and they have their fans and followers. Lady Gaga may have 10 million people who watch Lady Gaga. Well, if we could identify high influencers, and if the high influencers will mention our brand, would show them using our brand, boy, that will influence so many people because Lady Gaga drinks our particular soft drink. Okay, well, how do we get Lady Gaga to use Pepsi-Cola if that's going to be our product? Well, maybe she likes it. Maybe that is her preferred one. Maybe she doesn't mind being shown drinking Pepsi-Cola. Anyways, what's happening now is a lot of marketing companies are trying to identify high influencers and see if they could be seen using the product that you represent. Now, omni-channel marketing is another development. Who ever thought our product will not only be in stores, but you could also get it from a vending machine? In Japan, you'll find there's vending machines selling almost everything. Who ever thought that a product is going to be purchased at a fueling station, at a gas station, because that they only sell gas, right, and oil? No, they are running food stores and food businesses, and you can get candy and ice cream and a whole bunch of other products there. So take a broad view of imagine new channels that might feature your product. A marketing automation is a summary word to suggest a lot of ways in which we are turning over routine marketing decisions to machines, to artificial intelligence. Now, we wouldn't turn over very big decisions we would make them personally, but there's a lot of stimulus and response taking place in marketing, and we may want to automate some of that to reduce our costs. We also, in the book that you see featured there, we say a lot about the role of design thinking as part of marketing. We have a whole chapter on that. We have a whole chapter on the other idea that most products are really delivery systems of services. Namely, yes, a hammer is a strong object, but it's really has the ability to punch something, or let's say a drill makes a hole. It's actually the hole we want, not the drill, but we need a drill to make the hole. And finally, the book talks a lot about digitalization too. Now, moving on, I do not have the time in the 30 minutes that I've been allocated to go into all of this MarTech work. Now, the word MarTech is maybe new to you, but maybe you know the word FinTech. FinTech is all the new financial technical methods that have come about recently through artificial intelligence. Well, MarTech are a bunch of new techniques, and most marketers are just learning them now. I happen to be very partial to algorithms, because algorithms will be running many of our lives. You know that when you go to a bank and ask to borrow money, the banker today, the old banker would have just looked at you and made an assessment of whether he can trust you. Today, the banker just turns on his computer, puts in some information that you supplied and other things that he's done in the past, and the computer makes a decision whether to make you the loan. Same thing is happening with college admissions. It used to be just meeting a college person, and a professional person who says, oh, yes, we're admitting you to college, or we're not admitting you. But now an algorithm is making the decision. Well, I've listed all these other things as you can see. I'm going to skip this thing, but I'm going to say if you are in a company, I'd like to rate how good a company you are. And here's how I do it. It's a system where I give anywhere from 1 to 5 points to my own company. I'm just imagining how good I am in each of these 9 variables. Am I good in finding new opportunities as a company? From 1 to 5. Yes, 5 would mean, oh, I've been very lucky in finding new opportunities. But if I gave it a 3, that means, well, sometimes I have found new opportunities, but I'm not that terrific at it. Second one, am I making good use of marketing research and marketing and analytics? If yes, give it a 5. Third one, do I innovate at all? Well, if I don't, give it a 1. But if I have been very successful in innovating, give it a 5. What about communication? How effective am I? Can I give that a 5? What about my sales force? How effective have they been? Give it a 5 if you've been really very effective. What about your distribution channels being effective? Are they really strong? All right, give yourself a 5. Having a well thought out marketing strategy, what's that worth? I hope it's worth a 5 in your company. Being well organized for marketing. Are you well organized for marketing? Give yourself a value there. And finally, are we showing corporate social responsibility and caring for the environment? Now notice there are 9 factors. At the most, you can give 5 points to each factor at the most. 9 times 5 is 45. So what do we mean by that? We mean that a company that scores at 45, it is a terrific company. It's probably highly profitable, and sales keep growing. Now you know how you stand, because if you only have maybe 15 or 20 points, you're not a top-rated company. I use this technique sometimes to get discussions started. Let's move on. The last thing I want to say is this, that business keeps, the world keeps changing. We know that. We're being hit by changes all the time. Weather changes are hitting us that we didn't expect. So we've got to make changes as the world changes. If we make them too quick before the world has changed, we may be unprofitable. If we are too late in making needed changes, we would be unprofitable. So my prediction is within 5 years, if you are in the same business you are in now, in other words, if you're in the same business that made you successful now, it won't work anymore. You're going to be out of business. You haven't changed with the times. I leave that to you, but this is my overview of the stages of marketing evolution and where you ought to be in your thinking about today and the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Philip Kotler, for sharing your expertise, experience, and knowledge with us on new features and technologies in marketing at the 6th ICMR 2021. This invitation goes to Mr. D. Sinha, Head, Department of Marketing Management, to accompany Professor Atul Nyanapala, Dean, Faculty of Management Studies, Sabaragamuwa University of Sri Lanka, to symbolically award the token of appreciation to Professor Philip Kotler, admiring his knowledge sharing at the 6th ICMR 2021.
Thank you. Thank you very much.